As we remember the day Libby and Abby were found 3 years ago, law enforcement continues to search for their killer.
Meanwhile, others are working to delve further into the Delphi daughters case. Who were they? What happened? They're trying to keep the story in the forefront of our minds in hopes of finding answers. Our Alyssa Donovan is joining us live this morning. And Alyssa, you spoke with producers of a new podcast that focuses completely on this case.
That's right, Lauren. So their goal, the producers of this podcast, is really just to keep this story alive and do it on a new medium like podcasting in the hopes that they can reach a wider audience that maybe isn't as familiar with the details of what happened in February of 2017. Now, the podcast Down the Hill will take listeners through the day the girls went missing to the minute they were found and the investigation that followed. Andrew Iden and Barbara McDonald tell me that listeners will hear from people in community, law enforcement, and family members of both Abby and Libby. True crime podcasts have been credited with helping authorities with other cases, like the podcast The Murder Squad, which was recently credited with leading to an arrest in a cold case from the 80s. Iden and McDonald say that's not what they set out to do with this podcast, but if it helps more tips come in, they'll be happy.
Hopefully the story can just find new ears. Really, that's all we can hope for, because that's how something like this gets solved.
Yeah. And the podcast is available right now. There will be new episodes each week through March. And we did reach out to law enforcement. I spoke with Sergeant Kim Riley, who was interviewed on this podcast. He's part of the Indiana State Police. And I asked him, how does he feel about this podcast? And he said, whatever helps keep this story going and helps more tips come in is a good thing. Reporting live, Alyssa Donovan, RTV6.